I just want to thank you for the opportunity to share with all of you about pretty much many mistakes are made. And some of the good things that the Lord has done in my life, I would give 100% credit to the Lord for anything good happened. Any bad things is solely my responsibility, my shortcomings, my impatience, and lack of knowledge and wisdom, and probably shortcoming in the human relationship most of all. I've been a missionary for 30 years, which is not a short time. And basically, I've served in around 3 different continents. I was first in Kenya, Africa. I was based in Nairobi, which is a capital city. But my work was not really limited in Nairobi. It was because Nairobi being the hub of entire East Africa, as well as I can say safely whole continent of Africa, because of peace and no civil war, at least. And it was a very strategic place in terms of transportation, at least back in the 90s. Things are of course far better today. I don't know if there is any young one here who may not even know what I'm talking about. We used to have fax. Back in those days, we were sending fax to my sending agency here in Washington, D.C. area, all the way from Nairobi, which was very difficult to do. That was how we are communicating. I spent 17 years in Kenya/Africa large, and was based in Korea, the capital city of Seoul, and I was in and out of China, pretty much Shenyang area, which is northeastern part of China, because it was very nearby there. It was more of a hub for Asian ministry. About 4 years there as well. I was working particularly with the Christian Missionary Alliance denomination headquarters, raising up the missionary candidates for the denomination, and also heavily involved in traveling to China to train the underground church pastors in those areas who are mostly, I don't know if you are familiar with the China churches system. There are about 3 different types. There is a 3 self-church, which is very aligned with the philosophy and the instructions of Beijing government. They're probably, you can say, communist-friendly churches. And there are house churches and underground churches who are the ones being persecuted by the government. These are the ones who are very much untrained among the leadership. That's where we were focusing on. And I was in and out of China quite multiple times in those 4 years and helping those Chinese church leaders. And after that, I went to Philippines, another 7 years, working with Campus Crusade for Christ. Here in the U.S., it's known, of course, as a CRU. Bear Bright has studied a seminary in the capital of Philippines, Manila, 40 years ago. After World War II, they wanted to bring out the leaders and train them and send them back to their home countries. They tried to do that in the U.S., but the problem was many of the leading seminaries in the U.S. brought the leaders from Africa and Asia and other parts of the world, only to realize that 90% of them did not go back to their countries, but settled down back here in the U.S. So they found the problem, and they decided to start a school in, I don't want to use the word third world anymore, but because it's kind of offensive nowadays in the missiological world. Anyway, in a third world, they wanted to start a school there so that they would come and learn and make sure to go back to their places. So they had a very high success rate in terms of sending them back, 99%. So we were training the leaders from about 20 different Asian countries, all the way from Japan, Iraq, Iran, Malaysia, Pakistan, India. All of those places that are very hard to enter as Western missionaries. So we spent another 7 years there, and then we came back to the U.S. at the call of our sending agency, which is based here in Northern Virginia. We decided to take another term, focusing on the home side assignment. So that is why we are based here in Northern Virginia. And somehow the Lord brought us together. That's why I'm with you guys and privileged to share all of these things today. I'm going to make it very short. Most of the things I'm going to be sharing today is kind of just scratched from my book, actually. I know some of you have this copy, so actually, this is being used as the textbook at the Metro Baltimore Seminary in the discipleship class I teach. So if you're interested, you can maybe, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. Well, I am serving as the international director of the ministry called EAPTC, short for Evangelical Alliance for Preacher, Training, and Commission. But it's kind of too long. And I don't like the word evangelical nowadays because of some political flow. So we just stick with EAPTC nowadays. Well, we are pretty much about the discipleship making movement, although we don't really call ourselves DMM or associate with any particular ministry in terms of the name value. But we do collaborate with a lot of disciple-making movements and ministries and share the curriculum with them. And we started in 1996, precisely, here in Northern Virginia. And we have actually grown substantially to about 17 countries by this time, purely the grace of the Lord. Well, when I went to Kenya first time, I was very much focusing on the open-air evangelism, like some people call it crusade, or open-air evangelism campaign, whatever you want to call it. We hold a citywide revival meeting, invite the non-believers, and we share the gospel and bring people to Christ. It was very first year that I was sent to Kenya as a missionary. And I found out something interesting. That is, there are some people who are coming to receive and accept the Lord 3 times, 4 times, 5 times to get the free Bibles and any benefits they might be expecting. So we felt there was some problem there. And not that I'm saying this is not effective. There are people who are called by the Lord for a particular ministry like this. Of course, Billy Graham is one of them. And there are so many who are good at this, even here in the US. But we decided not to do that anymore and turn 99% towards disciple-making multiplication system. And so this is the pattern that I'm sure most of you are familiar. I would make a disciple and mentor the person. That's a multiplication 1 process. And there would be a multiplication of 2 Timothy 2:2. And it would eventually fill the area or the region. And that's what we were expecting. And God has been so gracious to us. And in the first year, we had a very small numbers of the people. In fact, when I turned everything in our ministry to this disciple-making direction, many people left, realizing that there are not much, aid or any kind of financial support coming with that. So we just ended up with about 7 or 8 people. This is the very first group of the people that went through the discipleship training. This is the first group, and all of them were put into work and ministries of some sort. They also went out and they decided to start their own discipleship groups of their own, and it began to multiply, and we had more disciples, and graduation took place, and numbers began to grow, and most of them here planted the churches and did full-time ministry in different capacities. Some of them even began to go to cross-cultural, like from Kenya to Tanzania, the neighboring country, because they were sharing the same language of Swahili. Some of them went to Tanzania and started the orphanage and churches and schools and all those things, purely really grace of the Lord. And some of them went to Malawi, central part of Africa, so they did the same thing. And from Malawi to Zambia, another multiplication. And the Lord called me and my family to Korea 2013. So we actually ended up meeting one of my disciples a long time. And she's older than me, by the way. This lady asked me to co-plant the church in the capital area of Korea. And so this is a church that we were working on, and the very first church that was started in Korea. And one of those guys was actually a Korean Chinese lady who was born inside of Xinjiang. So what happened was, interestingly, about a year later, the lady got the missionary vision and discipleship heart as well, and she went back to Xinjiang. And she organized some pastors to come, and the Bible school studied it. This is underground. We were doing everything secretive, under surveillance, and eat together, go through the training together from 5 a.m. to sometimes 10 p.m. So that's how we were training. I know it was crazy back in those years. I was still young, I guess. So we were doing that in different places around near Xinjiang area. So this is year 2014. And many of them ended up planting house churches, which are still running, albeit a heavy regulation from the Beijing government. And I was called by the Lord to go to Philippines 2017. And as I was sharing with you briefly, this is where we were training the leaders from different Asian countries, and we were sending them back. And many of them went back to their countries 2019. I'm not going to mention some of the names from this point because it's not easy to mention their names. I know this will be probably available out there on the public domain. So I'll just either blur their faces or abbreviate the names or whatever. I changed the names. And so this church, the area of the city, there is another church that was planted in Vietnam and another one 2025, lately, one of the alumni of the school that I taught at seminary in Manila went back, and we were communicating, because I'm their teacher. We maintained a relationship for a long time. And some of them still call and ask for advice, and we, just developed this mentor and mentee relationship for a lifetime, most of the cases. So some of them were still contacting, and he decided to start a church with our organization. So that's in the place called A in India, somewhere in the southern part. Maybe Tim Parker knows this place if I have some personal conversation about it. And we also were called by the ascending agents to come back to the US, and we decided to do the same thing at the call of our ministry. When the ministry becomes 30 years and many people, in fact, all of our board members either died or retired. So they were asking at the current status of the United States church attendance and membership being decreased and all of these things. They were asking me and my wife to start a discipleship ministry here in DMV area. So that's what we were. This is a fairly new one. I need a lot of help from you, by the way. I can use some of your advices on how to contextualize this multiplication right here in DMV. So this is the group that we are studying. Actually, we studied one in Northern Virginia. There's another one coming in Southern Maryland. And we have one potential person that we are kind of thinking about navigating through to start another one in DC Metro and another one in Delaware as well. This is one of the diagram that we drew many years ago about our work in Africa. It's pretty much about multiplication. We are not really interested in addition of any new members or leaders from other organizations or other places. It was more likely homegrown leaders that we were raising up and multiply and give them the work to continue to multiply and make sure we somehow unite all of them. The way we do that is through the curriculum. We have unified the curriculum that we all share, and I supervise that. So we want to make sure that our spiritual DNA is somehow all connected wherever we are and whatever name we use. So that is some of the dynamics there. Just briefly, what we are doing the global reach. We work in about 17 countries, about 300 churches operating, plus social outreaches like orphanages and microcredit banking project, or the project for the widows, especially in Africa. We have a lot of widows because of civil war taking place in most countries except Kenya and South Africa, and just a few places like where there are no natural resources. It's very funny about that, by the way. Anyway, so that is the global reach that we are doing, and we're focusing on discipleship ministry, leadership training, as I already shared. And we do share and provide some of the curriculum, books and manuals, and even podcasts to support the training the leaders and disciple makers, mostly online nowadays because of the digital space that the Lord has provided to all of us into the body of Christ. And holistic ministry, as I shared, social ministries, economic and educational needs. We've started a lot of primary schools. I know here in the U.S. we call it elementary school, but in most other places they call it primary school, secondary school. Another reason that we start schools is because from there, many churches are getting supported financially. We were trying to build a global ministry from the concept of self-support, not relying on any support from the West. Especially, I mean, our base is here in the U.S., but we've told them from the very beginning that we are not really going to support them financially. They have to take care of them. That's why most of our pastors and leaders in this ministry are either bivocational or they start a school, and churches as well. Churches are growing and they support their pastors and leaders with their tithing and offerings. And schools also bring up some the incomes from the tuitions, and they also self-support in most places. For the DMB ministry, we have a strategy for about 3 areas. We want to make sure that we do this with a prayer. We have a prayer groups being mobilized and organized and operated in all those 3 or 4 areas I just mentioned in the disciple groups. Discipleship is, again, our full attention and our full concentration. And I am doing some writings. In fact, I'm working on my 7th book. So I want to make sure that the writing would be done, not for anything else, but because this is something that we are doing to continually provide the ways of teaching and curriculum and guideline for our leaders. My role at EAPTC is, as I said, an international director, meaning I'm overseeing the leadership curriculum, and I am in contact with those 17 national leaders. I don't really spend much time with anyone else but those 17 national leaders who are overseeing their countries, actually 16 countries, because I am working here in the US. So I spend so much time with them. The only thing is the time difference I have to work on. And thank God, by the way, there was no way I could come up with meeting all of them from the comfort of my living room, like the way that we do nowadays. Thank God for this digital space that has been accelerated after pandemic. I do some collaboration for leadership training with Bucky Graduate University based in Dallas, Texas, which is affiliate of Lausanne Movement. Teach about 3 different courses there. Also with Metro Baltimore Seminary. I heard that you guys had a Craig Garriott last time. He's also teaching there. So I teach about 3 courses, which is about making disciples and world religions like Eastern religions, Hindu, Buddhism, and all those things, how to bring those guys to Christ, and Western religions as well. And do some missiological research collaboration as well. I am a member of American Society of Missiology and also Mission Nexus. In fact, I just sent another research data to ASM just about 2 days ago, and trying to get involved as much as I can so that we can help with direction suggestions for American church's future in terms of missions and cultural change and how to bring the next generation to Christ. They do a lot of researches on that, so I'm also trying to help as much as I can.